A History of Professional Accountancy Education Europe. First of all, I would like to thank the IRE, Belgium, to host and to record this interview. It is my pleasure today to welcome here Wolfgang Bohm. He is the vice chair of the steering group of a working party well known by professional accountants in the name of Professional Accountancy Education Europe. Wolf, we know each other since a long time, but I prefer to let you the floor to introduce yourself.
Well, as you can tell from my accent, I was born and raised in Canada. Went to school there, obtained my Bachelor of Commerce degree at the University of British Columbia in Canada, qualified there as a chartered accountant, and I'm also a chartered accountant in the UK and a CPA in the US. Prior to joining the IDW in Germany, I worked for 14 years in practice, primarily in small and mid-sized audit firms in Canada and Germany. 27 years ago, I joined the Institute of Wirtschaftsprüfer, or IDW, in Germany, first as a technical manager, but I've been the equivalent of the technical director, assurance standards, and director of international affairs since 2012. During my period at the IDW, I've been a technical advisor at the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, now for over 26 years. And I also served as a technical advisor on the International Accounting Education Standards Board. I was involved with this project before it became official, that is from the very inception. The project itself was created in 2006, and I am a member of the steering group, also vice chair of PAEE, and have represented the IDW on this project since its inception, essentially.
Thank you. The IDW, it's the
Institute of Wirtschaftsprüfer.
Institute of Wirtschaftsprüfer.
Right.
The IDW is the Institute der Wirtschaftsprüfer in Germany. So, Wolf, could you tell us who initiated the Common Content project, renamed Professional Accountancy Education? What did the project actually consist of?
Well, it actually goes way back to the year 2000, in which the AICPA in the US had initiated what was known as the Cognitor Project. It was a project that never actually got off the ground, but it brought together a number of institutes that in the end decided not to take part, including the IDW and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, also known as the ICAW. We had a visit by Brian Chiplin and David Cairns of the ICAW in late 2000, where they were considering the creation of a project on a so-called Global Chartered Accountant, or Global CA. This was followed by a meeting with a formal lunch at the Commissaire Compagnie Nationale. You can explain it better than I can. Yeah. With its president, Dominique Ledouble, in early 2001, where we reached agreement to seek to find common ground for a common project. The chairmanship of the project was accepted by Ab Mick, president of Royal Nivra, in 2002. And then Peter Wyman, president of the ICAW, took over chairmanship the next year when Ab Mick left Royal Nivra. We spent the next couple of years hammering out the basis for the project, which was more difficult than it sounds. It was then christened the Common Content Project, and it received its first constitution in 2006, when also the first educational requirements were agreed upon. The first chair of the steering group was Peter Wyman, who was then followed by Dominique Ledouble after he'd left his position as president of the CNCC.
So thank you, Wolf. It seems that after a few years, there were differences of opinion between the members representing the different institutes of the European profession. Could you briefly tell us what the main points of disagreement were?
I think what we found is that it was impossible to harmonize educational systems. This was not possible due to legal and historical reasons. And so we instead thought that we could perhaps achieve some form of harmonization by harmonizing educational outcomes. Another big issue was input-based versus output-based requirements. In the end, we accepted both. Uh, there were also disagreements about the depth and breadth of quantitative skills required.
Well, but now, what are the major milestones in the history of the Common Content Project, renamed Professional Accountancy Education?
Well, after the agreement in 2006, the first self-assessments and reviews of the project were carried out. The self-assessment was a situation where the local institute would compare its educational requirements with the requirements of the project, and this was then reviewed by an independent review team of other institutes. This caused further changes to the educational requirements. As of about 2008, the project seemed to lose steam, but it gained new life with the interest of the European Commission in education. Um, I had accepted the position of Secretary of the Steering Group and had helped first Dominique Ledouble and then his successor, Hans van Damme, formerly president of Royal Nivra, in engaging with the European Commission and Parliament on these educational issues.
And during the debates on the audit directive, the former AIDS directive, in 2014, at this time it was still the Common Content Project. So this project intervened with the European Commission to defend the profession's point of view regarding the initial education of auditors. Could you please explain us what the problem was and how it has happened?
Well, there was a danger that the European Commission and the Commission of European Audit Oversight Bodies, the COB, would undertake harmonization of professional education for auditors without taking into account the harmonization already achieved by the Common Content Project. So through intensive contacts with the European Commission and the European Parliament, Dominique Ledouble and then Hans van Damme and I managed to obtain changes to the final EU audit directive so that the national audit oversight bodies, the CUB and the Commission, would need to take into account any harmonization achieved by the professional when undertaking their efforts to harmonize education. From our point of view, this is a major victory for the profession and the project.
Yeah, it was a huge success, yes. The CCP grew up and changed its name in 2021 to PAEE, Professional Accountancy Education Europe. What was the reason for this change, and what were the consequences?
Well, most outsiders didn't understand what common content meant, that, for example, it relates to education and accountancy. So, first of all, it was important to include education, the word education in any new name. The project is currently based and focused on Europe, so it made sense to include Europe in the name. And the project needed to somehow indicate that it related to professional accountants. There was a problem with the word project itself because it sounded like there would be a certain beginning and an end to the activity, which is not true. So the word project itself needed to be dropped, hence the name Professional Accountancy Education Europe. But other than some changes to the Constitution and its means of operating, the change, I believe, was primarily a branding issue. I mean, the project still maintains its objective to maintain and improve high quality education of the profession and to harmonize the minimum quality of that education.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very
Thank you
much,
very much.
Rolf.
Hello.